It started with coffee. Not the cheap Brit kind from the office machine, but real coffee dark, rich, with that perfect swirl of foam on top. The kind they made at Caf Luna, that little Italian place on Fifth Avenue. I went there every Tuesday and Thursday after my yoga class. A small rebellion against my perfectly scheduled life. A tiny secret in my otherwise predictable marriage. And then there was him. Luca, 0.22 years old, with sun-kissed skin and hands that moved with the kind of confidence most men twice his age didn't have. He had this way of looking at me like he already knew what I was thinking, like he could see right through my wedding ring. One rainy afternoon, he slid my latte across the counter, his fingers lingering just a second too long. "You always take your coffee with 2 sugars, no cinnamon," he murmured. "But I think you'd like it better with a little spice." I should have walked away. I didn't. It happened 3 weeks later. I told my husband I had a work dinner. Instead, I met Luca at a dimly lit wine bar across town. He was wearing a black button-down, sleeves rolled up to reveal the intricate tattoos winding down his forearms. "You're even more beautiful when you're lying," he said, smirking as I nervously sipped my wine. I choked. "What?" "Your husband. You lied to him to be here." He leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "That's really fucking hot." I should have been ashamed. Instead, I was wet. 2 hours later, we were in a hotel room, and that's when he asked, "Let me film us." I hesitated. "Just for us," Luca promised, his hands already pushing my dress off my shoulders. Something to remember this by. I told myself it would be safe, that no one would ever see, that it was just another secret to keep. I was wrong. It came a month later. I was in the middle of a PTA meeting when my phone buzzed. An unknown number, a video thumbnail ... My stomach dropped. I recognized the hotel sheets, my bare back, Luca's hands gripping my hips. Then the message. "Recognize this, Mrs. Thompson." My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped my phone. Because the text wasn't from Luca. The demand started small, $5,000 in cash. "Or the video goes to your husband." I paid. Then it was $10,000. Then $20,000. And then ... I don't want money anymore. The voice on the phone wasn't Luca's. It was deeper, older, familiar. The voice on the phone chuckled darkly as I gripped the edge of my kitchen counter, my knuckles turning white. "Money's boring," it said, the cadence eerily familiar yet impossible to place. "I want to see you squirm." The line went dead before I could respond, leaving me staring at my reflection in the black screen, pale, wide-eyed, a woman already drowning. That's when the second text came through, a photo of my husband's briefcase, the one he took to work every day, sitting on our bed with the video playing on his laptop beside it. The timestamp showed today, 7:32 a.m., right before he kissed me goodbye. My knees gave out. The cold tile bit through my yoga pants as I scrambled for my phone, fingers slipping on sweat-slick glass. Mark hadn't said anything at breakfast. Hadn't looked at me differently. Just his usual distracted peck on the cheek before heading to the law office. That was worse. So much worse. Because if he knew and wasn't reacting, it meant he was planning something. The third text vibrated in my hand. "He's known for 3 days. Watch your step, Amanda." I drove to the coffee shop like a woman possessed, running 2 red lights and nearly sideswiping a minivan. Luca wasn't behind the counter. The new barista, a pink-cheeked girl who couldn't be older than 19, blinked at my frantic questions. "Luca? Oh, he quit last week." Said something about going back to Naples. Her eyes dropped to my left hand, to the diamond solitaire I hadn't bothered to remove. "Are you ... okay?" The burner phone in my purse buzzed again as I stumbled back to my car. This time it was a video, shaky footage of Luca walking into a parking garage, whistling, then the gunshot. The camera didn't show the shooter, just Luca's body jerking before collapsing behind a concrete pillar. The text underneath read, "Cleanup's done, you're next." That's when I noticed the date stamp in the corner yesterday. Luca had been dead before I even got the first blackmail text. Rain started pelting the windshield as I sat frozen in the driver's seat, the phone slipping from my numb fingers. None of this made sense. If Mark knew, why hadn't he confronted me? If Luca was dead, who was sending these messages? The coffee shop door chimed behind me, and I caught a glimpse of movement in the rearview mirror, a dark figure in a hoodie watching from the alley. Not Mark. Too tall. Too still. The phone buzzed again at my feet. Drive to 4512 Elmwood. Come alone. Or I pressed send on Mark's office email. The address led to a boarded-up dry cleaners in a neighborhood where the streetlights always flickered. I sat in my idling car for 10 minutes before the back door creaked open, spilling yellow light across the cracked pavement. That's when I saw them, the shoes first, expensive Italian leather, then the perfectly tailored suit pants. My breath caught in my throat as the figure stepped forward, raising a gloved hand to push the hood back. "Hello, Amanda." The hood fell back, and I found myself staring into the cold, calculating eyes of Richard Vosmark's senior law partner and our so-called family friend. The man who had toasted our anniversary last year with an expensive bottle of Bordeaux. The man who had patted my shoulder at Christmas and called me the perfect wife. His smile was razor thin, his gloved fingers tapping against a sleek silver laptop. "You look surprised," he mused, tilting his head. "Did you really think this was about you?" My fingers dug into the steering wheel, my pulse roaring in my ears. "What the hell do you want?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. Richard chuckled, stepping closer until his shadow swallowed the driver's side window. "Oh, Amanda, this was never about the video. Though I did enjoy watching it." His tongue flicked over his bottom lip. Slow, deliberate. "No, this is about what you can get me." He held up the laptop, the screen glowing with a document I recognized instantly. Mark's upcoming case files. The Hargrove merger. A $1 billion deal. My stomach twisted. "You want me to steal from my own husband?" Richard's smile widened. "I want you to survive." He leaned in, his breath fogging the glass. "Because if you don't, that video goes to more than just Mark. It goes to your parents, your sister, the PTA board." He tapped the screen, pulling up a new file, a list of names, addresses, every person who mattered in my life. "How long do you think your perfect little world will last when they all see you begging for it I slammed my car door into him. Richard staggered back with a grunt, the laptop nearly slipping from his grip. I didn't wait. I threw the car into reverse, tires screeching as I peeled out of the lot. The burner phone vibrated wildly on the passenger seat, screen flashing with incoming messages. I didn't look. I couldn't. Because now I understood this wasn't blackmail. This was war. Mark was home when I got back. He stood in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, calmly pouring himself a scotch like it was any other Tuesday. The sight of him so normal, so unaware made my throat tighten. Or was it all an act? "You're back early," he remarked, not turning around. I forced a smile, my fingers tightening around the burner phone hidden in my pocket. Meeting got canceled. Mark finally glanced at me, his gaze lingering a second too long. "You okay?" "You look tense." "Because your best friend just threatened to destroy me? Because Luca's probably dead in a ditch somewhere? Because I don't know if you're in on this I swallowed hard. "Just tired." Mark nodded, sipping his drink. "Well, rest up. The Hargrove dinner is tomorrow. Richard's bringing the contracts." My blood turned to ice. Richard, of course. I watched Mark's back as he walked away, my mind racing. Was this a test? A trap? Or was my husband truly clueless? The phone in my pocket buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a threat. It was an offer. Meet me tonight, 11 p.m., the old pier. Come alone, and I'll tell you what your husband really is. The sender. A number I hadn't seen in weeks. Luca's. The pier was rotting. Wooden planks groaned under my heels as I stepped into the fog, the salty wind whipping my hair into my mouth. No lights, no people. Just the distant cry of gulls and the sickening churn of waves beneath the dock. This is a mistake, but I kept walking because the alternative, living in this nightmare forever, was worse. A shadow moved at the end of the pier, tall, lean. Not Luca. My breath hitched as the figure turned, moonlight catching on a familiar tattoo, a serpent coiled around a dagger. Luca's tattoo, but the face ... you. The word tore from my throat like glass. Detective Carson smirked, his police badge glinting under his open jacket. Expecting someone else? He held up a phone my messages with Luca flashing on the screen. Like maybe your dead lover? My stomach dropped. You're the one who's been texting me? Smart girl. He took a step closer, the pier creaking ominously, but not smart enough. Luca didn't send that last message. I did. His smile turned vicious. After I put 2 bullets in him, the world tilted. All this time, ... You killed him. Carson shrugged. Collateral damage. He was dumb enough to brag about the video in the wrong bar. His fingers brushed my waist, making my skin crawl. But you're valuable. I recoiled. What do you want? Same thing Richard does. He leaned in, his breath reeking of whiskey and mint. The Hargrove files, and you're going to get them for us. U.S. The word slithered down my spine. Richard Carson. How many others were in this? And where the hell was Mark in all of this? The house was dark when I got back. No Mark, no note. Just the grandfather clock ticking ominously in the foyer. I locked myself in the bathroom, turning the shower on full blast to drown out my ragged breathing. Then I pulled out the second burner phone, the one only Luca had known about. One new message. Check the safe. Combination is our anniversary. Sent after Carson claimed he'd killed him. Hands shaking, I crept into Mark's study. The safe was hidden behind a framed photo of our wedding. The combination clicked. Inside, a gun. A passport with my photo under a different name. And a single sticky note in Mark's handwriting. When you're ready to run, take these. But if you fight, remember the pier isn't the only place with cameras. My blood ran cold ... Mark knew. He'd always known. And this wasn't a warning. It was an invitation. The gun felt foreign in my hands, cold and heavy like a betrayal. I stared at the passport, my face staring back under the name, Claire Whitaker. How long had Mark been preparing this? The note crinkled in my trembling fingers as the grandfather clock struck midnight. That's when I heard it, the deliberate creak of the front door opening. Not the careless stumble of a drunk husband. The controlled entrance of someone who didn't want to be heard. My bare feet stuck to the hardwood as I crept to the study doorway. The hallway was pitch black, except for the sliver of moonlight cutting across the foyer. Mark stood silhouetted against it, but something was wrong. His posture was too rigid, his movements too calculated. Then I saw the glint of metal in his hand. Not his usual keychain. A pistol. The same model as the one currently digging into my lower back. The floorboard whined under my shifting weight. Mark's head snapped toward the darkness where I hid. Amanda? His voice was calm, too calm. I know you're there. My throat constricted. Every instinct screamed to run, but my legs refused to obey. The security panel by the door beeped as Mark armed the system, locking us both in. We need to talk, he said, stepping forward. The moonlight caught his face then, and I recoiled. Blood speckled his collar. Fresh. What did you do? The words tore from me like shrapnel. Mark's smile didn't reach his eyes, protected what's mine. He tossed something onto the hallway table. A police badge. Carson's. The world tilted. None of this made sense. The burner phone chose that moment to vibrate violently in my pocket. Mark's gaze dropped to the telltale glow through my pajama pants. Ah, I was wondering when he'd contact you. He advanced slowly, like approaching a spooked animal. Tell me, Amanda, did Luca mention he was wearing a wire? The walls closed in. Every lie, every secret, every desperate decision had led to this moment. The gun burned against my skin. Mark was close enough now that I could smell the coppery tang of blood mingling with his cologne. Here's what's going to happen, he murmured, reaching into his jacket. Not for a weapon, a phone. He swiped the screen to reveal a live feed Richard's office, empty except for a dark stain spreading across the Persian rug. The Hargrove files are already mine. Carson's been taken care of. Now there's just one loose end. His finger traced my jaw, coming away damp with my tears. Do you really think I didn't know? The question hung between us, poisonous and inevitable. The phone in my pocket buzzed again. Then again, relentless, Mark's eyes darkened. Answer it. With shaking hands, I pulled out the burner. The screen showed an incoming video call from Luca's number. Mark's grip on my wrist turned bruising as I accepted. The image resolved into a dimly lit room, concrete walls, a single hanging bulb. And there, battered but very much alive, Luca glared at the camera, his mouth taped shut. Behind him stood a figure in a black ski mask. The distorted voice that came through the speaker turned my blood to ice. Mrs. Thompson, let's discuss what really happened at the pier. Mark went very still. The gun in my waistband suddenly felt like the only solid thing in a world gone mad. Because the masked figure wasn't holding Luca at gunpoint. They were holding something far more dangerous, a thick manila envelope marked Hargrove in red ink and taped to the front. The missing hotel video. The screen flickered as the masked figure stepped closer to the camera, their gloved fingers tapping against the Hargrove envelope. Luca's panicked breathing filled the speakers, his eyes wild above the duct tape. Mark's grip on my wrist turned vice-like, his other hand reaching for his own weapon. Who the fuck is that? He hissed, but I was just as clueless. The distorted voice crackled through again. Tick-tock, lovebirds. The police will find Carson's body by dawn. My stomach dropped. They knew about Carson, knew about Richard, knew too much. The figure abruptly ripped the tape from Luca's mouth. He gasped, then spat blood onto the concrete. Amanda, listen to me. A gloved hand slammed his head against the table. The masked voice chided. No sob stories. Just facts. They flipped open the envelope, pulling out a stack of photos that made my blood freeze. Not just the hotel footage. Pictures of me meeting Richard, of Carson tailing me, of Mark entering Richard's office hours before the bloodstain appeared. Your husband, the figure crooned, has been a very busy boy. Mark's gun was suddenly pressed to my temple. What game are you playing? He growled. But his eyes were on the screen, tracking every movement. The masthead tilted. Oh, Mark, after all those late nights at the firm, you still don't recognize my voice? Their free hand yanked off the ski mask. Detective Reza, Carson's partner. Mark's occasional drinking buddy. The room spun. Reyes smirked at our stunned silence. 3 years I've been building this case. 3 years watching you smug bastards think you're untouchable. She kicked Luca's chair for emphasis, but sleeping with the help? That was sloppy. The screen split, suddenly showing a live feed of our own hallway. Here's the deal. You've got 60 seconds to hand over the real Hargrove files. Not the decoys Mark planted in Richard's office. A new image appeared, a flash drive taped behind our wedding photo, where the world sees what really happened to Luca. Mark's laugh was hollow. You think I care about some barista? Reyes leaned in. No, but you care about this. The screen changed again, showing Mark's private offshore accounts. Every dirty cent, every shell company, all flashing red as Reza's hackers drained them in real time. The gun at my head wavered. That's when Luca lunged. The camera toppled. Gunfire erupted through the speakers, and our front door exploded inward. The blast knocked us backward. Splinters of our front door rained down as SWAT poured in, rifles trained on us. Mark reacted, first shoving me toward the hallway as he fired at the advancing officers. The bullet hit my shoulder before I even registered the pain. I crumpled against the wall, blood soaking through my shirt as Mark dove into his study. Gunfire, screams, the acrid smell of smoke, then silence. When I blinked the spots from my vision, Reyes stood over me, her boot pressing into my bleeding wound. "Where is he?" she demanded. The study door hung crooked on its hinges. Inside, the safe stood open empty except for a single blinking device. Mark's final joke, a bomb. Reyes barely had time to shout down before the world turned white. 3 months later, the hospital walls were sterile, like my new identity, like my new face. The explosion had taken Mark, Reyes, and half our house. The official report called it a gas leak. The Hargrove files. Lost in the fire. Sipped my coffee black. No sugar, watching the news replay my own obituary. The perfect tragic wife. The innocent victim. The camera panned to the lone survivor. Luca, his arm in a sling, giving a tearful interview about how he'd tried to save us. His eyes flickered to the camera, a silent acknowledgement. Because here's the truth no one knows. The bomb wasn't Mark's. The files weren't destroyed. And the video, it's still out there, sitting in an encrypted cloud, waiting, just like me,